What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. This is The Flash Season 1, Part 3 review. This is the last 6 episodes, starting from episode 18, All-Star Team Up, to the last one, Fast Enough. What a finale. I mean, just wow. I'm going to get to that in a second, though, because honestly, this last part of the season really did a good job. Because, one, from the result of Barry changing the timeline, going back a day and changing it, I was kind of like, as much as I enjoyed that episode, as much as I enjoyed what they did there, I kind of did wonder about Cisco, like, why show us that? Part of my mind was like, holy crap, I can't believe they showed us that, just to have them rewind. Like, I can't believe they went that way. And the other part of me was like, but why show us that? What's the point? It's not like Barry's gonna know. It's not like anybody's gonna remember that, because Barry's the only one that remembers what happened before, and he didn't even see any of that happen. So I was kind of like, what? Why show that? What's the point? They had a point. All of a sudden, Cisco just starts having these dreams of that moment, of Harrison Wells killing it. And I'm just like, holy crap, how can he remember the other timeline? How is that possible? Like, that shouldn't be possible. How is that possible? And I like the fact that it's explained pretty well. Not entirely, but they have an explanation. It goes beyond just, oh, it's just time travel stuff, that's why. No, he talks to Harrison Wells about, I can remember another time where you killed me. And he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, Cisco. He's like, whatever. He's like, no, I'm not sorry I killed you. I had a reason for that. And I'm just like, you jerk. But he's like, I'm sorry about this burden that's been put on your shoulders. You were affected by the particle accelerator that night, too. I'm like, wait, what? So Cisco's a metahuman now? Who has the ability to remember an alternate timeline. It's kind of weird to think about. Like, what's the purpose of this? Does he only remember whenever time's been changed, or does he have the ability to jump across different alternate timelines? Other timelines that are going on elsewhere at the same exact time. Does he have the ability to jump across those timelines, and does he have the ability to know what's going on in a different timeline? I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It's kind of weird to think about. But anyway, it was very well done. I like how they use that to lure Wells into a trap, which he sees through and sends the doppelganger guy in instead. I'm like, wow, that was pretty intense. But all these episodes had something really good about it. In the first one, All-Star Team Up, the one where Ray Palmer shows up in the Atom suit, all these bees are coming to not the bees. There were a lot of, I don't know, Cisco normally is the one making all the movie references, but Ray seems to make them too. So there was a lot more movie references in this one, but I mean, it was a good episode, fun to see the Atom in action again. Having only seen him for a little bit in Arrow, and on top of that, Beth from The Walking Dead was the villain, which I liked. So it was a fairly interesting episode. Next one, Who is Harrison Wells, is when they really start digging into his past. We kind of see more about the crash. We find out there's a little bit of a crossover because Cisco and Joe go to Starling City to investigate what happened. So, interesting to see that stuff. Interesting to see a bit of a crossover. We see both Quentin and Laurel Lance. Cisco's the one that actually invented that device that Laurel uses as Black Canary when she screeches. And yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that. Because, watching through Arrow on Netflix and seeing some of this stuff that I didn't know It just kind of happened out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, when'd she get that screeching thing? And then seeing this episode, I'm like, oh, so this is when she got that screeching thing. Um, the trap is the one where they try to trap Harrison Wells using this memory that Cisco has from the alternate timeline. Very good episode. Um, Also very intense because it felt like everything finally happened in this episode. Like we finally Harrison Wells is finally outed as Reverse Flash to the point where now he knows they know. So now he doesn't even pretend to be Harrison Wells anymore. At the end, he kidnaps Eddie as he's about to propose to Iris, and then Iris, she. This one was actually kind of funny because I was watching, but sometimes while I'm watching Netflix, I'll be doing some other stuff too. Like I'll be playing on my phone, or if I'm reading something. Not like actually reading a book, but I'll be looking at something else while Netflix is playing, so I'm paying attention to that. But if I've got something else here, I kind of look at this for a second and look back to see if I've missed anything. Um, and so I was looking at something, I can't remember what, I think it was my phone, at the end of this episode where, Reverse Flash takes Eddie away. I'm just like, ooh. And then, I hear Barry comes up and he's just like, don't worry, I'm going to find him. And then I hear him run away, and all of a sudden I hear her go, Barry? I'm just like, wait, what? Did she just figure out randomly? Like, what was... So I had to rewind it, and then it shows the shock as they touch. I'm just like, oh, from the coma. Okay, I understand now. I was kind of confused. I was like, wait, how did she just figure out that? Anyway. But yeah, a lot happens in this episode, all of that happens at the end of this episode. But the next one was a bit of fun. Grodd lives. Gorilla Grodd is a part of this episode now, and Eileen comes back in, being controlled by Grodd, mind controlled. Very interesting to see Iris kind of be a part of the team in this episode. Wasn't really sure if they were going to do that, just because it felt like something they maybe could have left out. They could have left Iris off the team, whereas in Arrow, Laurel ends up joining up. In this one, it feels like, what can Iris bring to the table? But then Grodd's mind controlling Barry, and then she manages to break through. So it feels like she's not going to offer something incredible, but I can see where she might be able to bring something to the table every now and then. Next to last episode, Rogue Air. Love this episode. Let me just... Yes. Right, okay. I just want to make sure I was remembering it right. This is one where they find out that the particle accelerator's been activated. They also find Eddie in the process, but they realize that if they don't get all these metahumans that they've been keeping captured here out, they're gonna die. So Barry feels like he has to. Everybody's just like, who cares? They're bad. But in his mind, he's like, I can't just let them die. He goes as far as to ask Snart for help, which of course ends up backfiring on him in the end. Kind of expected it to, just because it's Leonard Snart. He's going to betray you. But I kind of like the fact that it wasn't 100% a betrayal, because he does end up killing the one guy with the laser eyes who was about to kill Barry. He ends up killing him first. So it's like, even though he did betray him to kind of get these metahumans as his own, as help, as backup, at the same time, he's still got that side of him that isn't completely bad. So he kills the guy that's about to kill Barry to save his life. It's kind of interesting. He kind of just shrugs it off like, well, I guess you owe me one now too. It's like, no, there's a little bit more than that. Something else going on. But the way it ends, Barry is frustrated because he wasn't able to keep these metahumans in. Snart betrayed him. He tried to do it himself. Couldn't. He tried to catch Wells at the beginning of this episode and failed. So he's just like, I'm not fast enough. I can't do it. Well, at the end, Wells shows up. Actually, I should really start calling him Thawne, because it's Eobard Thawne is his real name. But Thawne shows up and Barry heads down to confront him. And of course, everyone's just like, "You can't do this on your own," and he runs down anyway. And then all of a sudden, Firestorm shows up. And then all of a sudden, the Arrow shows up. And I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. It is, yes. And so the fight is just, it's not like incredible. It's not anything like groundbreaking or anything. But it was the fact that you've got the Flash, Firestorm, and Arrow all fighting together against one bad guy. I mean, first you've got Firestorm tries to take him out, but he ends up like blowing him off course, so he's flying away. Flash goes after him. Arrow shoots Reverse Flash in the back, takes away his ability to move fast, so he gets all those nanobots, whatever, out that Ray Palmer created. And so now all of a sudden he's fast again. Just before he takes out Oliver, all of a sudden here comes Barry, knocks him down. And then they fight for a little bit, and Oliver takes him down. It was awesome. It was awesome seeing the three of them fight together. And then he ends up capturing them at the end, which I'm just like, wait, there's one episode left, which means something bad's about to happen. Sure enough, you go into the last episode fast enough, and this finale was just crazy from start to finish. First, you got Thawne offering Barry the chance to go back in time and save his mother because he knows how to, but at the same time that will help Thawne get back to his time in the future. So the entire episode I'm just like, Barry, don't do it. You can't let him go back. Like, it won't end well. I guarantee it will not end well. None of this will end well. What are you thinking? Why do you think this will actually work? And ultimately, even though he does go through with it as far as going back in time, ultimately he decides, you know what? This isn't right. Exactly what I've been saying the entire episode. So for me, it was just kind of like, I was happy because I've seen some shows, even before in this first season, Barry's made some decisions that just make me go, like, why would you make that decision? Whenever he reversed time and then he tried to go talk to Iris about his feelings, I'm just like, dude, you're an idiot. You realize you changed time. You reversed time, and none of what happened between the two of you to cause that has happened. And you're actually just going to go up and tell you. So throughout this entire episode, I'm just like, I can't believe it's actually going to go back and change time. Like, you realize, even if you do this, this could have some serious ramifications on your life. You could be a completely different person. You don't know who you could become. And so to see him head back in time, and then to see him open the door, as Flash and Reverse Flash are fighting, and then you see older Barry just kind of look at him and go, no. Just that hand that just says, you can't do this. It's kind of like older Barry knows what younger Barry's trying to do. And I don't know, you could read in a lot to this. You could read into the fact that older Barry, knows what younger Barry's trying to do, but knows that if he does, he could change time forever. I don't know, because the thing is, older Barry in this timeline now. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna try to talk myself through this because I've thought about it and I had a good. Okay. When Barry was a kid in this timeline, the older Flash that saved him then and didn't save his mother didn't know that his mom was going to die because that was a completely different Flash. So when Thawne killed his mother, he disappeared because he didn't become the Flash. He wasn't going to become the Flash after what happened to his mom. So that's why he had to get the particle accelerator online and turn him into the Flash, because without, with that trauma, he wouldn't be the Flash, and he needed him to become the Flash. Which means that the Barry that traveled back in time this time, in this timeline, is the Barry from this timeline. Right? Right? So that means this Barry knows what younger Barry's about to do. He knows that younger Barry is about to head back and try to save his mom. So it's like he stops him knowing, look, I know what you're about to do. You can't do it because if you do, you're going to change time forever. Um, at least that's what I read into it. I may just be thinking about it way too hard. But that's what it seemed like to me. It seemed like this Barry was the Barry that we know now, just older. And so he knew what this younger Barry was going to try to do because he tried to do it as well. And he just, no, don't. You can't do this. So he doesn't change time. He actually comes back, and this, I was shocked when this happened because Wells was about to head into the the thing and go home, and I'm just like, okay, bye. You know, I'm tired of you. You're evil. I don't like you. And then here comes Barry through the wormhole, just bam, takes out the time travel device, which of course pisses Thawne off. So he's like beating up Barry. And you know, all this is going on. The wormhole is about to explode. So Ronnie and Caitlin have to go shut it off. They do, and then they shut it off. But Wells is still, no, Wells, Thawne is still there, and he's about to kill Barry. He's got his hand vibrating. He's just like, after I kill you, I'm gonna kill them all. And he's about to go, and all of a sudden you hear a gunshot, and I'm like, did somebody just kill him? Did somebody just kill him? And all of a sudden it shows somebody's shirt with a bullet hole in it. I'm like, what? And it zooms back, and it's Eddie. I'm like, did that just happen? Wow. Because, I mean, wow. The thought of that. First of all, you saw Eddie throughout most of this episode kind of feeling sorry for himself because Eobard Thawne really got into his head, you know, making him think, you know, of all of the Thawne family, you know, of everybody in my family line, you're the one who's a failure. You just became a cop and you were a failure as a cop. Really got into his head. Shows him the article that shows that Iris is going to marry Barry, you know, Iris West Allen. And so for the first half of this episode, he's really feeling sorry for himself. He's like having a little pity party because he's just like, man, I'm a failure. I'm pointless to the time. And then Martin Stein kind of gets into his head as well, and kind of convinces him, look, you're not pointless. You know, the reason that Eobard Thawne tried to convince you of that is because he didn't, you know, you're a coincidence, which is something that he could have never planned for. You know, to meet his distant, you know, his great grandfather. You know, he could never have planned for that. So it was kind of like pumping him up, saying, look, you are the wild card in all of this because you're his relative. He couldn't kill you because if he did, he would be gone. So when Stein said that, I honestly didn't catch it, but that was kind of foreshadowing for what Eddie had in mind, which is killing himself to remove Eobard Thawne from the timeline, which ultimately it does. But still, I mean, this is Eddie who we've been... At first, I hated him because he was, you know, it felt like a foil thrown in for Iris to like because, you know, Barry liked Iris. So let's give Iris this boyfriend who at first she, you know, oh, that's a pretty boy. Yeah, he's pretty, but he's probably a jerk. Let's throw him in there to give Iris somebody to like so Barry becomes jealous. That felt like the only reason he was in there. It didn't feel like he was in there for any other reason. So for him to have such an influential role, for him to be the distant, like, great grandfather of the main bad guy, and then decide to kill himself to remove that bad guy from the season. And honestly, I was starting to like Eddie. You know, at times he could really frustrate me, and there were decisions that he made that I'm just like, Eddie, come on, man, stop acting stupid. But overall, I was really starting to enjoy him. I was starting to enjoy his character. I was starting to enjoy what he was bringing to the table, episode after episode. And now he's gone. In a moment of sacrifice. And I did not see it coming. I should have seen it coming because of the hint from Martin Stein, but I didn't. it just came out of nowhere. I'm like, holy crap! Very clever ending, and not a lot of shows would have thought to do something like that. So I do respect the fact that they really did think this through and they made it a very clever ending. And then to top it all off, after the bad guy's finally gone, all of a sudden the wormhole opens up again. It's just like, what? No, it's supposed to be gone. So Barry takes it on himself and runs up a building, climbs up into the wormhole, and starts running around, and season ends. I'm just like, oh, are you kidding me? I mean, I know ultimately things are probably going to be okay for the most part, but at the same time, I do want to point out the fact that I'm not entirely surprised, because DC has this thing for destroying the main cities that their work of their story is set in. In Arrow in the first and second and kind of third season, they didn't really do as much destruction in the third season, but in the first and second season, Starling City got destroyed pretty much. In the first one, it was a huge earthquake that destroyed buildings. In the second one, it was an attack from Slade's ultimate humans. In the third one, there was one attack from one of Ra's al Ghul's suicide gassers, not bomber. There was one attack that was released, but it didn't do a whole lot of damage. And even those people that got infected, I think, said were saved. But I'm not entirely surprised that they decided to go, you know what, let's create a wormhole that's going to destroy part of the city, because frankly that tends to happen in DC. I'm still waiting for, I'm sure Supergirl's probably going to end on a destructive note too. Maybe. Because this, at first I was like, Supergirl just seems like it's in its own world, but now it seems like Flash is going to be on Supergirl this week, so maybe they are combining, and maybe Supergirl is becoming a bit more like these shows. I don't know. Anyway, that was a weird tangent. But yeah, to have it end on that is just like, come and watch the second season, guys. See what happens. Even though things are likely going to turn out okay, I'm sure Barry's going to live. I'm sure other people are going to live too. At the same time, it's kind of like, what's going to happen? What's going to be the what's going to be the after effect of this? Like, are people going to look at Star Labs now as just a hostile place and a place not to be trusted because of what happened now? It really is going to affect a lot of people's thinking, I believe. So, curious to see where it goes there. Obviously, it probably is going to be a while before I'm able to watch the second season, because it's not even close to being on Netflix yet. It's not even ended. I'm pretty sure it's still going on. I don't want to wait. Anyway, but that's my thoughts. Overall, this first season was really, really good. I like it even better than Arrow, mainly because I feel like where Arrow had more of a direction to take it at first, and then kind of changed the direction, so I don't know, it felt much more, I can't believe I'm about to say this, Arrow felt a lot more unrealistic than The Flash. And what I mean by that is it feels unrealistic as far as characters, their character interaction. A lot of the fights going on, a lot of the stuff going on in between characters just feels like every episode it feels like there's some sort of conflict in between characters, and sometimes it's conflict that's already been resolved in another episode, and all of a sudden it's back again. It's just like, what? I thought this was over. But somehow they're arguing about it again. In The Flash, there was still conflict between characters, but most of the time it was something different. Where the only time that I actually had to really get frustrated was at the end when Iris found out about Barry and she started blaming her dad for what happened to Eddie. I was like, where do you draw that connection? That doesn't make any sense. It was Eddie's anyway, that's the only time that I felt like a character reacted unrealistically. Whereas in Arrow, it feels like some of the characters act very unrealistically, and whenever I'm looking, I'm like, I would not imagine anybody in this world would act that way in this situation. Just one example is Felicity. After Oliver returns, she wanted him to give up his morals of not killing to kill Ra's al Ghul. And whenever he comes back, his morals have changed. And she's just like, I would have thought you would have changed more. Like, or no, I think she was upset with him that he did change. His mind changed about stuff. And she is upset about it, even though she was the one who originally wanted him to change. It's stuff like that. It doesn't happen all the time in Arrow. And for the most part, Arrow's action and his fighting scenes are really good. So I managed to look past it. Whereas The Flash, the fighting is still good, but the stuff on the outside is also good. It's not stupid. None of it really makes me go, that's unrealistic. And for some reason, I got more invested in the characters in this show than I did in Arrow. I actually did care about Iris and Eddie. Were they going to work things out? Is Iris actually going to try to fight her destiny of, it says she's going to marry Barry? Well, she's like, that is not my fate. I'm not going to let fate decide this. I'm going to make my own decisions. Stuff like that, normally I wouldn't care about. Normally I'd be like, this is boring, can we please move on? But honestly, I care about it more in this show than I did in Arrow, just because I think they handled the characters better in this show. So overall, I'm very happy with it. One other thing to comment on, at the end when they were showing random people in the crowd, I wouldn't have known this had I not seen Legends of Tomorrow yet, but it showed Kendra Saunders, who is Hawk Girl. I just thought that was kind of weird, just a random, like they zoom in on her like she's important, and anybody who hadn't been watching, well, pretty much everybody who'd been watching the show at that time, it's just like, who is that? Now that I'm watching it, after seeing, I've been watching Legends of Tomorrow, watching it now, I'm like, oh, Hot Girl. Huh, that's interesting. So, anyway, this is just a random tidbit. But let me know what you think, what you thought of this first season. What did you think of these last few episodes as well? Leave a like and subscribe for future Arrow content and Flash content after I manage to watch the 4th and 2nd seasons. But yeah, leave a like and subscribe to see those, and I'll see you in the next review. Peace out.